Alright, Savvy Gang, what's good, what's good, what's good? Alright, so I ain't dressed today, so I'm just sitting here chilling, and I wanted to continue on with the Hyksos dynasty and get through at least like maybe two more topics or so. So I do thank you for tuning in and hanging out with me tonight as I go through more of my book here, speaking about black people who are the real children of Israel. Um, I'm speaking about our time in Egypt. And we also had the natives and we had the Latinos there with us as well. This is the time period where we all stood back to back and we defended each other. We was with each other. And this time period is known as the Hyksos dynasty. And if you watch my previous video, I showed you pictures of Issachar, who are the Mexicans today. I showed you pictures of them um, pretty much in Egypt. They were little figurines that were, and they look just like Mexicans. I'm going to show it again in this video because I'm going to start off with a picture here. So, one moment. Alright, so I showed this picture yesterday, and this is Issachar. This is Mexican, Hispanic, Issachar, Mexican, but they are Issachar in the Bible. But these are figurines, and they look just like these people today because they was with us. That is why there are pyramids in Mexico. Because they was with us in Egypt. Alright, so continuing on in my lesson titled The Hyksos. See the picture? A group of Asiatic people. Yeah, a group of Asiatic peoples. They came up with all kind of names, Asiatic and all this other crap, all these other bywords to keep us from knowing our true identity. Anything but what we truly are, which is the real children of Israel. So, like I said, a group of Asiatic peoples, perhaps the future Hyksos depicted entering Egypt c. 1900 BC from the tomb of a 12th dynasty official Knumatep II under Pharaoh Senusserah II at Beni Hassan. The glyphs above are above the head of the first animal. These are so-called Hispanics and so-called Native American Indians in this hieroglyphic, the one that I just showed you. The first half of my lesson on the Hyksos appertains to the dark-skinned black people within our nation of Israel. The next part of my lesson shows the connection primarily between the so-called Native American Indians, the so-called Hispanics, and the Hyksos. Joseph would become the forefather of the people who are known today as the so-called Puerto Ricans. Biblically speaking, the tribe is listed under his son Ephraim, while Joseph's first son Manasseh is the forefather of the so-called Cubans. So, in actuality, the original rulers of ancient Egypt under the Hyksos dynasty started with the so-called Puerto Ricans and Cubans. So that's something for Puerto Ricans and Cubans to be proud of. Bet you didn't know that you played a role in ancient Egypt. That's something to discover. But biblically speaking, the tribe is listed under his son Ephraim, while Joseph's first son Manasseh is the forefather of the so-called Cubans. So in actuality, the original rulers of ancient Egypt under the Hyksos dynasty started with the so-called Puerto Ricans and Cubans. Many Hispanics don't know their real history prior to them coming to the New World. Now, don't get things twisted. The Hyksos dynasty is still a part of the so-called Negroes' history because Judah was there also. Judah, which is another one of the sons of Jacob, is the forefather of the so-called Negroes. If you read the first part of my lesson, the last video, you will remember that I told you Judah was one of the brothers who plotted against Joseph. Judah, along with his brothers, was jealous of Joseph, who was favored by their father Jacob. At first, they plotted to kill Joseph, but Judah suggested selling him to the Ishmaelites, the Arabs, traveling to Egypt instead. This act, though initially seeming cruel, ultimately led to Joseph's rise to power in Egypt and his later ability to save his family from famine. By selling Joseph into slavery, the brothers unknowingly paved the way for his journey to Egypt and his subsequent rise to power as a powerful leader, saving his family from starvation during a famine. Later, when Joseph is in a position of power, he tests his brothers to see if they have changed. Mm-hmm. Joseph must have been the finest one of his brothers. I know. Trust me, I know. Judah demonstrates remorse and becomes a key figure in the story, playing a role in Joseph's reconciliation with his brothers. The Most High raised up Joseph and his sons as rulers in Lower Egypt as the Hyksos, shepherd kings. The Egyptians still ruled Upper Egypt, and they became tributaries to Lower Egypt, meaning we had the best part of the land, and they paid what we call taxes to us. In the hieroglyphic picture above, notice it shows our ancestors as they entered into Lower Egypt as the Hyksos or shepherd kings. Take note of how they are all different shades of brown and how their hair texture goes from woolly to straight in the picture. This is proof for people in the Hebrew community who think that all of the 12 tribes of Israel are only Negroid and dark skinned with woolly hair. Our people were never just one color, and I'll let that sink in for a minute while the haters gather their salt. All textures of hair come from us. You can see examples of that in Arabs who come from Ishmael. Ishmael had a dark skinned Shemite for a father who was Abraham, and a so called African from Ham for a mother, which is Hagar. But his people's hair is straight. Now explain that. It's even more proof that it's possible for black people to produce a child with straight hair, just like how it's possible for a black man and woman to produce a white baby, but two white people cannot produce a black or dark skinned baby. We are the original. We have been here since the beginning. The original Arabs, I'm going to show you on a picture here pretty soon. Let me see. No, I'm gonna just show you right now. I'm gonna just show you right now. It was the next page. See? See, black man? That's how you used to dress. You used to dress like that too. He got his whole style from you. The original Arabs look like this. The original Arabs look like this. The original Arabs look like this. Who the hell are these people? And they predominantly came to Egypt in like the Arab Spring. And I think that might have occurred like in the 1800s or something like that, but it might have been even before that. They've been coming into Egypt and stuff like that, and they pushed the original Egyptians into Sudan, and they call them Sudanese now, but those are the original Egyptians. History is important. I'll never forget, I was at work in a meeting. This was at CASCOM, and I had to correct this guy on my team who was clearly Arabic, but he was born in Egypt, just like the people you see at the bottom of the pic above in the Arabs Today section. He said, "Yeah, you know, we Egyptians invented math." Long story short, I told him before 641 AD, there were no Arabs in Egypt. You're not Egyptian, they are black. Also, I told him to research the term Arab Spring, which is an allusion to the revolutions of 1848, which are sometimes referred to as the Spring of Nations and the Prague Spring in 1968. Math came from the Hebrews. That's why when the children of Israel left Egypt, no new pyramids were erected. If the Egyptians were so great in mathematics, why were no new pyramids built after the children of Israel, aka the Hyksos, aka the Shepherd Kings, aka the Hibiru people, exodus out of Egypt? If the Egyptians were so great in mathematics, why were no new pyramids built after the children of Israel exited out of Egypt? Of course, he was in his feelings because I busted his bubble, maybe even Bruce's ego. I don't know. I don't care. It's his entitlement while neglecting the fact that his ancestors stole someone's identity. But hopefully, he will research and find out who he really is. Ishmael, not Ham. They really be forgetting that Arabs are not the original Egyptians. They really do forget that. The Arab Prince, Rudolf Ernst, 1854 through 1932. Shade. Only one can truly be an Arab. Ding, 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 ding. Mm-mm. Wrong. Isn't that cute? But it's wrong. Bedouin at Abba El Lisan Jordan 1918. As you can see from the pictures I have provided, the original Arabs are even dark skinned, black, like that. Even though they are not Negroes. There are very dark skinned people all over in Iraq, Iran, Syria, Turkey, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. I'm talking black to the point where if you were to place them in the hood, no one would know the difference until they start speaking, but I digress. The so called Native American Indians and Hispanics are just light skinned because of mixing with white people. We have always had a mixture of colors among our people. Even the so called Negroes who came off the slave ships were already dark and light skinned. That is why Willie Lynch said in his letter to put the dark skinned slaves against the light skinned slaves. This resulted in the creation of the house nigger and the field nigger. Today we are known as bougie slash ghetto or Haitian and Dominican or Mexican, Negro, which are bywords. We are divided by language, skin color, and Esau's bywords. My Dominican friends, you know black, but you are a child of Israel, just like Negroes, natives, and Latinos. Jeremiah 12, verse 9. Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. The birds round about are against her. Come ye, assemble all the beasts of the field, come to devour. Even within each tribe of the real nation of Israel, these skin tone differences can be seen. No other nation of people has this type of assorted color changes in their people. For example, the majority of the children of Ham and Arabs are close to the same color of brown. Same with the Japanese and Chinese, but the Hebrew Israelites are like a speckled bird. The Most High could have made mention of any bird in the scripture. He mentions the speckled bird because God is revealing a fact in our people ranging from the darkest of dark brown to the lightest of light brown in appearance. That is why in the hieroglyphic picture and in the definition of Hyksos, it states that the Hyksos were multiracial, which is a lie. We just have a variety of different skin tones. The people who actually went into Egypt, according to the Bible, were only Israelites. And I know that to be true because I get everything. I've gotten Somalian, I've gotten Eritrean, the same as Nipsey, rest in peace. Um, I've gotten Mexican, I've gotten South American. I, Baby, I've been everything but what I am. And I always tell a funny story when I got here to where I'm at. Like, I never forget when I was walking in the mall and the police was following me. And it was because I think they was following me because I had on my do rag and I got the beard and. But I get it. It is what it is. Doesn't make it right, but it is what it is. So I get everything. I get everything. Exodus 1, King James Version. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. The sons of Jacob and their children are the people that went into Egypt and became shepherd kings, or the Hyksos dynasty. They were not a multiracial people. Our nation looks multiracial because of our skin tones, but we have always looked multiracial throughout history. This can even be seen in my own brothers and sisters. because I have brothers and sisters who range from deep dark brown to the lightest of light. You know, can probably pass for white, for real, for real. Almost like a Rachel Dolezal or something. You know. Anyway, Hyksos from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. The Hyksos were rulers of foreign countries, were a multiracial people from the Middle East who took over the eastern Nile Delta, ending the 13th dynasty of Egypt and initiating the second intermediate period. Important Canaanite populations first appeared in Egypt toward the end of the 12th dynasty, 1800 BC, and either around that time or 1720 BC formed an independent realm in the eastern Nile Delta. The Canaanite rulers of the Delta regrouped in the 14th dynasty, coexisted with the Egyptian 13th dynasty based in Itjatawi. The power of the 13th and 14th dynasties progressively waned, perhaps due to famine and plague. And 1650 BC, both were invaded by the Hyksos, who formed their own dynasty, the 15th dynasty. The collapse of the 13th dynasty created a power vacuum in the south, which may have led to the rise of the 16th dynasty, based in Thebes and possibly of a local dynasty in Abydos. Both were eventually conquered by the Hyksos, albeit for a short time in the case of Thebes. From then on, the 17th dynasty took control of Thebes and reigned for some time in peaceful coexistence with the Hyksos kings, perhaps as their vassals. Eventually, Seqenenrata, Kamos, and Amos waged war against the Hyksos and expelled Kamudi, their last king, from Egypt, 1550 BC. And I'll come back and I'll show you that. Okay, and this is Genesis 48, King James Version. Okay, verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph come unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. Jumping down to verse 8. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons and said, Who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, They are my sons whom God hath given me in this place. And he said, Bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath showed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham, Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, in the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his brother, Not so. And Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother, speaking of Puerto Ricans, shall be greater than he, Cubans, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he, and you know them Puerto Ricans, is fertile. It's no shade. And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said unto Joseph, Behold, I die, but God shall be with you, and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Manasseh was the firstborn of Joseph. When Jacob blessed Ephraim, he said that Ephraim would be multiplied more than Manasseh. So when Israel blessed the Puerto Ricans, he said that the Puerto Ricans will be multiplied more than Manasseh. Today is true this is true between these two tribes. The so-called Puerto Ricans are known for being a very fertile people, and their population has grown more than the so-called Cubans. These are subtle clues needed in order to be able to identify the real children of Israel today. The tribe of Ephraim was made the head tribe of the northern kingdom of Israel, who subsequently led the northern kingdom here to the Americas around 720 BC. Ephraim also played a leading role in our history when our nation went into civil war among each other, and they used the stars. See, the northern kingdom was good. The Puerto Ricans and Issachar, the Mexicans, they have always known how to work them stars. They've always known how to calculate them stars, the calendar. Look at the Aztec and the Maya. Look at the calendars. Okay? They got it honest. They've always had that skill. And so that is how they came over here. They sailed from Assyria, because we was, led away. They sailed from Assyria, sailed down around the Cape of Africa, the southern tip of Africa, and it took them about 1.5 years to get here. And they used the stars as their guide. The Most High was with them. So, and last, but certainly not least, another attribute that will educate you on the people of Hispanic descent ruling Lower Egypt along with Judah are the pyramids. Just look at some of the historical monuments that the Hispanic and Native American people built here in the Americas. In ancient Egypt, we built the pyramids. These same pyramids look like the pyramids here in America. The geometry of them is so accurate, especially being they were constructed without any modern technology. Still to this day, they are one of the greatest marvels of the world. It's no coincidence that the Aztec people of Mexico had the same technology on the other side of the world. That's because it was the same people who built them. Check out this short video of Glenn Beck finding out the truth, finding out the truth. One moment.
is made up of 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet. 606. It's made up of stades, exactly the same. Now, if that's not interesting enough, look at the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you take the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the slope is 51.8 degrees. Let's go back to the earthworks. If you measure the line that goes straight through the center of the structure, right here, and then you'll go true north, it's 51.8 degrees. That angle is exactly the same angle as the pyramids of Giza. It is the same math, the same calculations as ancient Egyptians. Let me show you one more connection. In 1860, David Wyrick, he's a guy who surveyed the Newark earthworks. He was digging into a mound near those earthworks and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a skeleton of a man holding a little box. It was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something, and there's writing here. At first, they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that, and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the Ten Commandments. Now, this is another piece. Block Hebrew, they said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismissed the findings. They found it in Israel, and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee, since it came from Cherokee country. They didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew.
In Ohio.
So what's going on here?
Hey, Toledo.
What is that about? Where is that history?
In Toledo.
I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to show you some more things that
Ohio.
The Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for bringing these stories to my attention. I was blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know that? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio, and did you know that?
Yes.
Why not? Were the American Indians wronged? Yes. Yes. And that's what we focus on in America. Is we know that? Do you live in Ohio, and did you know that?
Yes.
Why not?
Ooh, I know. I know why you didn't know. I know why. Because you're stupid. That's why. And I'm not talking. The people know who I'm talking to. They know who I'm talking to. In fact, it's a lot of them is in Toledo, Ohio. I told them a long time ago, when blank hits the fan and they come running with all these questions and why I didn't know this? Because you're stupid. That's why. That was going to be my response. So when people ask questions like that, I used to be all nice and try to explain, but now because I know people don't be trying to listen to learn, they just be trying to listen to try to catch you up or try to prove you wrong. Because you're stupid. That's why.
Were the American Indians wronged? Yes. Yes. And that's what we focus on in America, is we were bad to the American. Forget about it. It's in the past. The question should be the ones that the founders asked. Who are they? What knowledge do they have? Can you imagine the difference we would have now if we would put our differences aside and put our past in the past and concentrate on today and say, let's learn from each other. What do you have? What is that? What is that? When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Peter Lilback, who is, I've told you before, is one of my favorite authors. He's going to talk to me a little bit about the founders here. And I'm also going to show you some documents that show how that history has been erased. Next. This is the Smithsonian Annual Report, 1882, 1883. This is John Wesley Howell. This is an original copy. John Wesley Howell in 1789. Again, this is Powell. This is the director of the Bureau of Ethnology at the Smithsonian Institute. He said this: artifacts found prior to Christopher Columbus's arrival would be considered illegitimate by the Smithsonian. Only the savage Indian culture would be observed, and this created the artificial barrier to science. Only the savage.
Don't use my last name.
Science
but
was colluding
with
government because of commerce, and religion was involved. Now, why do I tell you all this stuff?
Y'all, everybody want to use my last name, okay? Don't confuse the savage. Savages are me. I'm a peaceful people. I'm a peaceful person. I am a real person. Don't confuse the savage people.
Not because I'm an Indian expert or anything else. You got to do your own homework. I just found out about this stuff. I'm amazed by it. I don't know what the answer is on this. The reason why I bring it up is the stock is not bad. The soup went bad, but the stock is not. Peter Lilback, Dr. Peter Lilback. How are you, sir? Good to see you. This is a book that needs to be owned by every American. Every single American should have this book in their home. It's called Sacred Fire. These are the words of George Washington, and it takes history absolutely apart. Not on somebody's opinion, but on their own words, on his words. Peter, I want to go to you and talk to you a little bit about, again, the stock. George Washington had a good relationship. Our founders had a good relationship with the Native Americans, right?
There's no question about that. When they came to America, they realized they could not survive without a close relationship with the Indian people. The greatest story, for example, is the Pilgrims who were blown off course. 800 miles out of their destination in Virginia, they're in Massachusetts. They land on ground, and they're in the middle of nowhere, no government. They make the Mayflower Compact, so they have government when they land. And there's no Native Americans there because a plague had gone through, but one person shows up. He happens to be a Native American that knew English. He'd actually been taken captive to England.
He'd learned English.
He'd gotten his freedom. He came back, his people were gone. The white settlers are there all of a sudden, and he meets them and he says, welcome.
Mm-hmm.
He speaks English. They couldn't believe it. The providence of that moment is extraordinary. They needed help, and there was a person there to help them, and he was a Native American.
I talk about that. I talk about that story, that exact story. I forget his name, the native. I ain't gonna hold you. I forget his name, but I tell you his name when in the video. And if you want that more information on what he's talking about, if you want the real tea, you can go watch my video. It's called Why I Don't Celebrate Thanksgiving. And so I give you, a lot of history on the Northern Kingdom, who are the natives. And I just want to also say that Glenn Beck, the white man that's talking to this guy, him going into this stuff, that's one of the main reasons why he was fired. It's the reason why the Smithsonian don't want to accept artifacts prior to Christopher Columbus. It's a reason why. Because the deeper you dig, you are going to find out that the native that was here in America, they spoke Hebrew. They spoke Hebrew. When the settlers came, when the people who was visiting and settling and stuff like that, when the earlier settlers came and they spoke, they was greeted in Hebrew by the natives. And they don't want people to know that the natives are the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Just like they don't want you to know black people are the tribe of Judah. Black people make up the southern kingdom. Black people are the tribe of Judah. So yes, there's remnants of us in Africa, of course, but predominantly, if you black and you over here in America, then you are from the tribe of Judah. So this is what he's speaking about. And like I said, it's a reason why Glenn Beck was fired. And that's the title of this video. The reason Glenn Beck was fired. So if you frustrated with me because I done paused my way through the video and I was turning the camera back on me and stuff, you can always type this in. I always give y'all the sources on everything that, I talk about. So, but yes, there you have it. Hebrew artifacts in Ohio. Guess who is from Ohio? Me. I'm from Ohio. I see the connection already. I knew it was the reason why I was blessed. It was the reason why I was chosen to talk about this stuff.
Right. And that creates Massachusetts.
All right. Do I have time for one more story real quick? No? Okay. Hang on, because I wanted to come back and talk about, I want to talk about William Penn. Because William Penn said something when he was working with the Indians that is critical to understand the truth, I think, about America. And we'll do that next. The history that has been erased in our nation, and in particular with the Native Americans, happened because it didn't fit the story they created, Manifest Destiny. It only works when Indians were savages, and they had to have savages.
Oh my God. I just paused the video to say that I spoke about this whole Manifest Destiny. I broke that down. You can watch the video why I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And I even put a excerpt of that video in another recent video that I did. So, but you'll have to watch it. I have a lot of videos now, so I can't really describe the specifics, which is in one particular video. But yeah. And I mean, you just keep calling my name, huh?
For commerce and government to expand. The ancient artifacts prove otherwise. Why aren't we looking into those? Peter Lilback is the president of Providence Forum and the author of George Washington's Sacred Fire. Okay, Peter, I think a great place for America...
The reason... I had to turn the camera around to say this. The reason why they don't want you to go into this is because then you gonna ask, well, who is them people over in Israel then? Imposters. Those are not God's chosen people.
To understand the truth about Americans and Native Americans and African Americans, all of it, it comes from William Penn. Tell the story.
Great story. Philadelphia, the great founding city of the United States. That's where government began. It was founded by William Penn. He wanted a city without walls. And he determined that he would do it by making a constant commitment to justice and ethics with the Native Americans. There never was an Indian war with William Penn. And there's a wonderful treaty that still exists that describes the commitment they made. And it says this: there are good people and bad people among all people. There are good and bad Indians. There are good and bad Christians. That's what he called them in Philadelphia. And he said, we must come together so that we will address these problems that will come with respect and by communication, affirming the good.
Yeah, right.
That's where we need to be. There are good among us and bad among us. There are good Americans, bad Americans. There's good parts of America. There are bad parts of America. In the American story, we've got to come together as the good people, stand together.
Well, Mr. Beck, you're not on the good side. You were not on the good side for a very long time. I do appreciate you going into this and talking about this, because as I always say, many of them do not know their own history. They don't know their own history. They only know what they was taught. They don't know their own history. And, you know, the victors can always rewrite history. And that is what they did. You heard him say African Americans, Native Americans, African Americans. This is all the stuff that I have been talking about and proving.
And guard against the bad, so we can live in a country without walls. Peter, thank you very much. Back in a minute.
And this was years ago. Now the bad is in office.
We expand our own understanding of America, good, bad, and ugly, with the civil rights movement tomorrow and Friday. And then we'll see you down at the mall in Washington, D.C. on 8/28. Don't miss it. History in the making. From New York, good night, America.
Well,
All right. So now it's time for one of my favorite parts. One of my favorite parts of this lesson. This next part is titled The Hyksos Dynasty, the plagiarism of Horus, exposing the nastiness of Egypt in the unconscious community, by Yakana Fitz Savage. Alright. Some of you may have seen ancient Egyptian artifacts depicting the Egyptian god Horus, his father Osiris, and mother Isis appearing in many memes, but there is a reason for this. Egyptologists try to discredit the existence of Christ, the king of the Israelites, because these artifacts of the birth of Horus were created around 4,000 years prior to the physical birth of Christ, meaning when Christ came in the flesh. These memes allegedly prove that the birth of Christ through Joseph and Mary was a copy of the birth of Horus, which is a very stupid false claim. First of all, Christ was born in the last week of September during the Feast of Tabernacles. Sorry that they didn't teach you that on Sunday. Secondly, Christ came via Joseph and Mary having sex. Joseph is Christ's earthly father, but the Most High is his father, meaning Christ. Just like we all have fathers on earth, whether they are living or not, whether you know him or not, but the Most High is all of our father overall. Within Egyptian mythology, which is the study of Egyptian gods, myths, and their alleged culture, you will find that the prophecy of the birth of Christ was not copied from Egyptian mythology, but it was quite the contrary. Let's first begin by gaining an understanding of what the word plagiarism means. This is key to finding out if the prophecies of the birth of Christ are a copy of the birth of Horus or vice versa. Merriam-Webster's dictionary: plagiarize, to use the words or ideas of another person as if they were your own, or ideas. Full definition: transitive verb, To steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own, use another's production without crediting the source. Intransitive verb. To commit literary theft. Present as new and original an idea or product derived from an existing source. Now that I give you the understanding on the word plagiarism, let's dive into some Egyptian mythology and read about the birth of Horus. Then I will trace the etymology of where this myth stems from originally. Along the way, I will be going in and exposing harsh truths about the people as well as the culture of ancient Egypt. I want to find out if the birth of Horus came first, which was written on the walls of the tombs of the pyramids of Egypt and hieroglyphic art, or if it was a plagiarized copy of the prophecies of Christ. According to Egypt mythology, the father of Horus, which was Osiris, was murdered by his brother Set. Set became jealous of the love affair between Osiris and Isis. Savage point of view. Isis, by the way, this is savage point of view. Isis, by the way, was the sister of them both. Also, by the way, incest. So those of you who try to go down the Bible, down the Bible because of incest, well, you believe in something that condones incest. There were times when there were only a few people on the earth, and in order to populate the earth, there was incest between families. After the Mosaic Law was produced by the Most High, incest was forbidden from that point. By the way, didn't Akhenaten father 2 children with one of his daughters? Hell, wasn't Akhenaten a product of incest himself? Wasn't his mama his sister? See, a lot of the Kemet brothers and sisters in the unconscious community only want the glamorous false ideologies. An example, women love the fact that in Kemet they are worshipped as gods, but I'm sure none of them are putting crocodile dung in their vaginas, which was a practice of Egyptian women. I'm going to show you. Or I bet none of these so-called goddesses are having sex with animals, which was another one of the Egyptian women practices. Oh, you don't believe me? You gonna gag. The following sources also bring to light the homosexuality practices that the men and women did. Just like most black civilizations, the unconscious community tried to hide the homosexuality that was going on in Egypt. It was taboo back then, or so I understood. What I don't understand is the lack of pushback from the unconscious community when movies such as Gods of Egypt are produced. Okay, and this is from, I'm quoting here. This is not my own, I'm quoting. In the coffin text, spell 635 utilizes the degrading status associated with sodomy to assert the deceased's power over the god Atem. Atem has no power over his backside. Likewise, in spell 700, in a passage talking of Geb, the deceased again uses sodomy as a symbolism of power. His phallus or penis is between the buttocks of his son and his heir. Pyramid text 1036 records a reciprocal approach to homosexual desire. Horus has penetrated Seth's anus with his seed. Seth has penetrated Horus' anus with his seed. Papyrus Chester Beatty I, dating to the 20th dynasty reign of Ramses V, takes a more aggressive approach. After a banquet, Set is said to rape Horus in order to shame him and take the crown from his brother Osiris. At night, Set let his member become stiff and he inserted it between the thighs of Horus. Yet, within the Petri Papyrus fragment UC 32-158, dating to the late Middle Kingdom, the men are shown as lustful and seductive, proclaiming what has been described as the first recorded chat-up line. How lovely are your buttocks, and how muscular your thighs. What is constant throughout each of the representations of the tale is the degrading of the passive participant. In each tale, it is said that Horus placed his hands between his thighs and caught the semen of Set, for which Isis severs Horus' hand and throws it into the Nile. After fashioning Horus a new hand, Horus is instructed to spread his semen upon Set's lettuce, to which unsuspectingly Set devours. When Set later tries to degrade Horus, stating that he has done to him the work of a male, Horus calls forth their semen. Showing Set to have received his seed and therefore to have been the passive participant. Again, from these accounts, it is the passive role that is disgraced and not the physical homosexuality. Oh, so the bottom was shamed. That's kind of what I was getting from this. And then I give you the link and the source. Baby, there's so much going on here in these pyramid and coffin texts, but I ain't want to gossip, so you ain't heard it from me. I have seen these debates between the Hebrews and the unconscious community. They try to discredit the Bible, but they need to sweep around their own front door. Not they use sodomy as a symbolism of power. Oh, so that whole the black woman is God false doctrine must have come late into the game. Before that, they were using sodomy as a symbolism of power. And now, quiet is kept. Some say they still do. But I ain't want to gossip, so you ain't heard that from me. Now, I have read the story about the birth of Christ, and I couldn't find anywhere in the Bible where it stated that Joseph molested Christ. In fact, in all of my research on the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Septuagint, the Apocrypha, the Pseudepigrapha, / Sacred Text, Testament of Adam, Apocalypse of Peter and Paul, the Gnostic texts, and a few more, I have never come across a story of Joseph molesting his own son, or any of the brother, any Joseph being molested by his brother, and there was none of that. I can't help but notice how the story of Set and Horus became more gruesome as I came across different versions of what happened. I don't know if Horus was raped or not, but I do sense that something happened between these two. This is nasty because aren't they supposed to be family? Now to my black women, go on over there. Go on over there and be Egyptian if you want to. They will lure you in with the false doctrine that you are God when they have you having sex with a sacred goat or have you using crocodile dung as a suppository. Don't say nothing to me, okay? Because I don't want to hear it. When they have you getting plowed by a sacred baboon, remember to call on yourself because they deemed you as God. Now, to all my black women, I'm just being as foolish as these pictures that I am about to show you next. But for real, in all sincerity, black woman, I do love you. And if I have offended you in my words previous, I do apologize to you. I hope that anyone who takes offense at what I say realizes that I talk about any and everyone. I talk about any and everybody. Okay? Baby, no one is exempt. I talk about myself. I talk about black, white, Latin, Arab, Asian, gay men, the trans community, the ballroom, pageant, club scene, lesbians, heterosexual people, black men, black women, our kids. I talk about black people, white people, Asians, Arabs, Indians, Hispanics, the imposter Jewish. I talk about everyone. There are things within my own community that I would like more understanding on, and I'm sure that time will come when it comes. I'm not against the trans community. I'm not against anyone. If you do support me, I truly do appreciate you. No, there are no comment section on my videos. The way that I see it, when the church adopts a question and answer period at the end of their sermons on Sunday, the wrong day at that, then I will open my comments. For years, you sat in a building, listened to a man belittle people while exalting themselves, and paid him to do it. Well, it's the same here, but remember this. I ain't asked you for a dime. I have not asked you for a dime. The knowledge that I'm dropping, people pay thousands for, but I never asked you for a dime. I work, and in spite of how you may feel about me, the Most High has blessed me. The Most High has kept me safe.
I am so excited to be doing this. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. Like I said, you can pause this if you ever want to read it. Cahun Papyrus Comedic Contraception. Cahun Papyrus Column 3, and I think verse 6 suggests uh also advises crocodile dung as a suppository. So I one day I was watching, right, there was a debate that was going on between the Kemetic community and the Hebrew Israelite community. They do these little stupid debates all the time, but you can see him standing here. He was one of the Israelite brothers was standing here, and they was presenting the information. And so they used to do a lot of stuff with crocodile dung, the ancient Egyptians. And one of the things that women would do was they would use it as a suppository. Well, 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 well. Looky, 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 looky. This is disgusting. No shade. Also, I want to point out that ancient Egyptians suffered from various dental problems, including severe tooth wear, tooth decay, uh, periodontal disease, and abscesses. In ancient Egyptian, life expectancy at birth was relatively low, averaging between 19 and 25 years old. However, surviving childhood significantly increased the life expectancy, with adults living into their 30s or 40s on average. Still low. There were high infant mortality rates due to infections and other factors significantly impacted average life expectancy at birth. So much for their so-called great culture. So they gave another. They was presenting something else as on having sex with animals, and so in spite of this, sex contact between man and lower animals occurred at various times and various places. Mm, mm, mm. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus tells about women copulating, that means having sex, with goats. Voltaire also speaks of Egyptian women performing sex acts with sacred goats and sometimes with baboons. In fact, there are recorded accounts of sexual contact between humans and practically every kind of animal. These include not only goats and baboons, but also sheep, dog, cats, horses, birds, reptiles, lions, chimpanzees, and apes of all kinds, called bestiality. So that was a common practice in ancient ancient Egypt. All right, so this is from Richard Parkinson, Homosexual Desire and Middle Kingdom Literature, Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, number 18, 1995, 57. From Greek custom, which the Egyptians exhibited. For example, the women of Egypt go to the marketplace and sell goods there, while the men stay at home and do the weaving, which they also do differently from other peoples, who push the woof up from below while the Egyptians push it down. Here, the men carry loads on the heads and the women bear them on their shoulders. Women urinate standing up, men sitting down. They ease themselves outside the house, but eat out in the streets and justify this with the explanation that one ought to take care of base necessities in private, but those that are not base in public. George M. Fredrickson, Stanford professor, The Black Image in the White Mind, one of my favorite books. Love this book. I just love this book, man. Page 74 through 75 wrote, in the 1840s, Morden collaborated with George R. Gliddon, or Glidon, an Egyptologist who provided him with mummy heads and information about the racial significance of Egyptian tomb inscriptions. In Crania Aegyptiaca, published in 1844, Morden pointed out that both cranial and archaeological evidence showed that Egyptians were not Negroes. The Negro's head was longer than that of the Egyptian heads. The principal characteristics from the outside were similar, with the thick lips and broad nose, but once he starts dwelling and diving into the real characteristics, he found out that they were two totally different people. As abolitionists and
colonizationists had maintained that in fact blacks had been relegated to the same servitude position in ancient Egypt as in modern America. But what Dr. Morton did discover is that the Negroes that were serving in slavery in America served the same position in servitude in ancient Egypt when he matched other skulls and the other remains in Egypt. They said these were exact matches. So what you are going to find out is that what they are saying is you, Negroes, are the biblical Israelites. Yes, the same exact people that served in slavery in the land of Egypt, the same exact people that God sent Moses to go redeem from under the hand of Pharaoh, the same exact people. And when you read the Bible, you will find out that slavery is the central theme in the Bible for the Israelites, for us. That really is one of my favorite books, The Black Image and the White Mind. Because those people went in trying to prove that we are not those people, and they ended up finding from comparing the skulls from here in America, the people that went into slavery, comparing them to the skulls of the slaves in Egypt. And who was the slaves in Egypt? It is I mean, them folks that's over in Israel right now, they can't even go out into the sun, or they're gonna burn in the sun. That's why skin cancer is very high over there. It's like, I think it's like one of the second highest in the world, skin cancer over there in Israel, because those people do not belong there. They don't belong there. It is a reoccurring theme with the Israelites. The Israelites cannot run nor get away from slavery. It continues to happen over and over, all the way up until today. You came out of Egypt as slaves, came down into the land of Egypt. As soon as you got there, the Syrians came and captured the land of Egypt and took you and made you slaves. Today we are in our last captivity, soon to be freed by Christ. The Black Image and the White Mind is one of my favorite books. I love when Esau, Mayo, white people get their bubble busted. Many of them don't even know their own history prior to America. You Kemet brothers and sisters also believe in a religion that condones homosexuality and bestiality too. Like I said, don't come calling me when he wants to put a collar with a long rope attached around your neck while he gives you some paper and cans to chew on. You know, goats will eat anything. Well, you know, that's what it said. They'll eat anything. For the record, goats will not just eat anything. Goats typically get the bad rep for eating everything, including a tin can, but that statement is typically false. It was the woman urinating standing up. It was the women urinate standing up, men sitting down for me. Seems like ancient Egypt had the same issues that we have today in America, with women being masculine and the men being feminine. Anyway, back to the lesson. Once Set murdered his brother Osiris, ultimately he chopped up his body and dispersed his members into the Nile Delta. Isis searches for the parts of her slain husband / brother to try and piece him back together and bring him back to life so that she could conceive a child from Osiris, but his penis was eaten by a fish in the Nile. His penis represents the monuments you see in places like Washington, D.C. and the Vatican. It's those obelisks. She then reconstructs a fake penis, aka a dildo, so that his seed may enter her. I'm not saying it was a dildo, but it's kind of sort of. This is where the story picks up, which you will be reading below from the translation of this Egyptian myth that dates back approximately 4,000 years before the birth of Christ. This myth is read from hieroglyphics to English. If there be made a slaughtering against me, and a rebel festival against me, and a striking of horns, then will a swelling occur in the eye of the Jeb. Then I will swallow for myself the penis of Ra and the head of Osiris. Alright, so continuing on, remembering Osiris, number, gender, and the word in ancient Egyptian representational systems, parentheses, Stanford University Press, 1999. Encyclopedia of Religions, Phallus, Tom Hare, professor at Stanford. There as well, the restoration of the body is complete only when the phallus is restored and made miraculously erect. At this point, Isis becomes a small bird, a kite, and flies up to mount the phallus. She thereby receives the semen of the dead god and conceives his son, Horus. Comparisons of Osiris to Atum are made most explicitly in a pair of reliefs from the 19th dynasty temple Menma Atre, Seti first at Abydos. Damaged and mutilated as the scenes are, you can still clearly recognize their significance on the south wall, the mummify. And I give you the link here, but I just showed this to you. By now, you might have concluded that this Egyptian myth proves that the prophecy of the birth of Christ are nothing more than a plagiarized copy of a nearly 6,000-year-old Egyptian myth. But see, I know of a bastard named Manetho who distorted the ancient history / records of Kemet surrounding our Israel entrance and exodus out of Egypt. Manetho purposely switched up the original chronologized order of Egyptian pharaoh history in its original order. I will speak a little more about him later, but let's look a little deeper beyond Egyptian mythology and find out where this so-called wannabe prophecy stems from. I want to answer how the Egyptians produced this myth. Mythology is the foundation of all Kemetic
knowledge, aka Egyptian mythology or Egyptology, as well as Greek mythology. The Greek gods are all based on Kemetic gods. The Greeks worshipped black gods. Merriam-Webster's Dictionary, mythology. The myths of a particular group or culture. Ideas that are believed by many people but that are not true. Egyptian mythology is mythical but is based off of real biblical prophecies that were in fact true. The prophecies became myths when the true biblical prophecies were twisted to fit their unconscious community, own culture. They steal and try to discredit. Where did this myth of the birth of Horus originate? Job 8, King James Version, verse 8. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. Abraham taught the Egyptians when he went down into Egypt. Abraham lived before the invention of the myth that was created about the birth of Horus in Egypt. Abraham lived before the invention of the myth that was created about the birth of Horus in Egypt. Abraham was taught by Noah's son Shem, who we come from, who Negroes, Natives, and Latinos come from. We are Semitic. Abraham was taught by Noah's son Shem, who learned from Noah. Shem was Melchizedek. According to history that predates Horus, the Egyptians were first taught the knowledge of the prophecies of Christ by our forefather Abraham. Abraham also taught them math and much more. Genesis 12, King James Version. And there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down into Egypt to sojourn there. For the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, that's because Sarah was pretty. She was light-skinned, and she was very pretty. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. I don't know what you heard about Abraham, but whatever you thought you heard, know this. Abraham was that dude. Abraham was a very wealthy man, and he was full of great wisdom from the Most High. When Abraham went into Egypt, he wasn't just some random dude. He was not like the other people who also went to Egypt because of the famine. He sat with the Pharaoh of Egypt as a diplomat and taught the leaders of Egypt, aka Kemet, the prophecies of Christ. Here is a receipt from a very creditable source called the Josephus. Josephus was an Israelite historian who lived approximately 70 AD and wrote about the history concerning Abraham. Yeah, you won't learn this in church on Sunday because Pastor don't know. This is information that was commonly known among the people of his time. Here's what he wrote. Okay, Flavius Josephus. Of the Antiquity of the Jews, Book 1, containing the interval of
33 years, 3,833 years from the creation to the death of Isaac. Chapter 8. That when there was a famine in Canaan, Abraham went thence into Egypt, and after he had continued there a while, he returned back again. Now, after this, when a famine had invaded the land of Canaan, and Abraham had discovered that the Egyptians were in a flourishing condition, he was disposed to go down to them, both to partake of the plenty they enjoyed, and to become an auditor of their priests, and to know what they said concerning the gods, designing either to follow them if they had better notions than he, or to convert them into a better way if his own notions proved the truest. And I give you a link for that. http://penelope.uchicago.edu/ant-1.html. The myth that is commonly taught about the birth of Horus is nothing more than a plagiarized copy of a prophecy, the birth of a real Savior, Yeshua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, that predates Kemet and Egyptian mythology. Let's find out where Abraham would have specifically gained this knowledge of the Son of God. This is why Pastor don't know. Jude 1, King James Version, verse 14. And Enoch, also the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints. The book of Enoch. Enoch lived before Ham, or his funky sons, even existed. Enoch predates all of Kemetic knowledge. He prophesied the coming of Yeshua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, which Christ reiterates in the Gospels. Matthew 25, verse 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. Abraham received the knowledge of the coming of Christ from Enoch, the book of Enoch. As you can see in the scripture from Jude, Enoch knew about the chariots, aka UFOs, as they are called today. These flying vehicles were commonly known by the Egyptians as being chariots of the Hebrew Hyksos, Israelites. That's why you commonly see UFOs shown in movies like Stargate, Star Wars, and Alien vs. Predator, to name a few. Enoch was taken to the heavenly realm by one of these vehicles, where he learned secrets of the universe. He's seen heaven. He's seen Hades and the whole universe. Hades is hell. Enoch seen how everything in the solar system works together. The prophecies that Enoch had of the coming of Christ was referring to these chariots that commonly visited our ancestors in Egypt. Enoch is another one of my favorites because my great-grandfather's name is Enoch, but I digress. Abraham learned this knowledge from Shem, and he taught it to the Egyptians. The Egyptians copied this prophecy and created an Egyptian myth of the birth of Horus. Genesis 5:23. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Ecclesiasticus Sirach 44, King James Version, verse 16. Enoch pleased the Lord and was translated, being an example of repentance to all generations. Enoch was taken straight to the heavenly realm in what the scriptures refer to as a chariot. Enoch never died. I wish I could obtain something like that, not trying to covet or anything like that. Here's proof that these chariots were flying vehicles that Enoch prophesied that Christ and the angels would return in. Psalm 68, verse 17. The chariot of God are 20,000, and even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. There is no such thing as a UFO or aliens, no matter what ancient aliens tells you. According to God, but there is a such thing as angels. So there is no such thing as a UFO or aliens according to God, but there is a such thing as angels. What you know as a UFO are really angels according to the Bible. Previously, a few lessons back, I showed you that these vehicles also fly. These vehicles are far beyond the technology we have here on Earth. In the definition of the word chariot, it proves that it's considered a vehicle. Thesaurus, chariot, a machine used for transportation. Isaiah 31, verse 5. As birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over, he will preserve it. 2 Corinthians 10, King James Version, verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Here are additional sources of the plagiarized copy version of the prophecy of the Son of God that was prophesied by Enoch. These same prophecies were taught to the Egyptians by Abraham. Then they were turned into Egyptian mythology by Kemet. Some of you Kemet brothers and sisters are out of your minds. Once you do the research, you will see that even the rich among Egypt were poor in health. You will also find that they worshiped the penis heavily to the point where it was plastered all over the walls. The science that you worship is so deep, but yet when scholars dug up your mummy ancestors, they discovered ancient Egyptians had many epidemics of heart disease. This is probably from all the blood drinking and cannibalism. These unconscious brothers want to take us back to a civilization where the lifespan on average was 33 years old. By 20 years old, 9 times out of 10, you would have had to, by 20 years old, 9 times out of 10, you would have had tooth decay, which is connected to heart disease due to the poison seeping into the bloodstream. They also had major epidemics of STDs. Sound familiar? Probably from all the bestiality. If the Kemetic community knowledge is so deep, then why couldn't they heal themselves? Maybe the tooth decay came from swallowing penis and semen. Well, as for me, I will stick with my Hebraic roots. I will stick with my Creator, who had men living to 800 plus years old. I will stick with my Creator, who sent his Son to heal and deliver his people, in which Yeshua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, did just that. I will stick with my Creator, who gave Abraham wisdom, in which Abraham passed his wisdom of math, science, and astronomy down to Egypt. I will stick with my Father, who completely destroyed Egypt due to their actions towards us back then. Today, some of these men and women in the unconscious community still project hate towards Israel, Negroes, Natives, and Latinos. They don't want the Bible to be real because then they will have to do right. Some men claim their woman is God and still mistreat her. Mixing human excrement, poop, yeast of beer, and honey to dress a wound is diabolical. Male semen used as a flavoring agent. This is what was going on in ancient Egypt and Kemet. Y'all was into some nasty things and still are. Who is Dr. York? And what did he do? Why is he in jail? Hey yo, what happened to Polite? Hester Chester's? Much?
Male semen is used. What? Take a look at this picture. You see it for yourself. Male semen is used as a flavoring agent. That's what they was doing in ancient Egypt. Ra has no power over me, for I am he who takes away his breath. What did that say? You what between his what? That's in the coffin tale. Coffin text, spell 635. Look at all the penis worship. These are penises. I just got the pictures kind of spread out, but so this is the next video. And baby, I hope you're ready, because this is 61 pages. 61 pages of history. So I hope you're ready. That's what's coming next. The real Exodus route that Israel took by Yakanafit Savage. Alright, y'all, so we have come to that time where we must separate. But no. Yeah, it's time for me to go to bed. You see what time it is. You see what time it is. And it is, today is the 24th. Today is the day before my birthday. Yay! Go me. Go me. So, yeah, today is, one day away before a new chapter starts in my life. And what am I doing? Up reading my book to you. I've always been a night owl. So I've always been a night owl. I've always stayed up like late, even though I have to be to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, I'm about to put me on some chicken wings. Sometimes I still get these because, man, like I remember back in the day, man, these things used to smack. They still go hard. I still eat them, but I don't know. It kind of changed over time. But I remember when I used to get these as kids, man, we used to smash these. And of course, you can't go wrong with your watermelons. This whole thing was full. I've been pausing the video and coming over here and eating a piece. So that's it for me, and I just want to say once again, thank you, thank you, thank you for your love, for your support, for your well wishes, for your hate. Cause I just take the energy and I just transmute it and use it for my greater good. So in all things, I am blessed. I am light. I am abundant. And nothing is gonna stop me from doing what I was sent here to do. We all have a purpose. We all have a mission. I'm just blessed to be able to find mine. So, like I said, thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. Greatly appreciate you. If you want to subscribe, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And welcome to the Savvy Gang. Deuces.